company called Datamasters sold the home addresses of 435,000 Alzheimer's patients. California caught them. The fine was $45,000. That breaks down to roughly a penny per person. They also sold 2.3 million blind and visually impaired people, 857,000 people with bladder control issues, 133,000 people suffering from addiction, 3 million vulnerable people, total. A penny each. The global data broker industry generates $315 billion a year. Your medical diagnoses, your physical location, your religion, your children's names. And when a company gets caught selling data they should never have had in the first place, the financial penalties are so small, they function as rounding errors. I'm Sara, and this is the price list. Look, Datamasters is a symptom. The inventory is the disease. As of February 2026, California records show over 575 registered data brokers operating in the state. The scope of what they monitor is absolute. According to this Federal Trade Commission settlement, a broker called Kochava tracked the physical movements of people visiting reproductive health clinics. They tracked visitors to domestic violence shelters. They tracked people going to addiction recovery centers and places of worship. Kochava gathered this data through a software development kit embedded in over 10,000 different mobile apps. The FTC settlement restricts them from selling sensitive location data going forward. But the agreement did not require Kochava to delete the sensitive data they had already sold. SafeGraph operated on a similar model. A motherboard investigation confirmed anyone could purchase a week of location data for visitors to Planned Parenthood clinics. The price was exactly $160. The data file showed which specific clinic a person visited, how many minutes they stayed inside, and where their phone traveled before and after the appointment. The inventory gets cheaper when you buy in bulk. Researchers at Duke University ran a controlled study to see what military personnel data was available on the open market. They successfully purchased names, home addresses, geolocation history, net worth, religious affiliation, health conditions, and information about the soldiers' children. Here is the receipt. It cost 12 cents per record. If you bought the entire database, the price dropped to a single penny per soldier. You could even filter the purchases by proximity to specific military bases. The Duke researchers noted in their findings that anyone with an email address, a bank account, and a few $100s could acquire the exact same intelligence. So here's the thing. Once your data is categorized and priced, it moves through a commercial pipeline. It begins with an app on your phone, flows to a commercial data broker, and frequently ends up in military databases you never authorize. SafeGraph did not just sell abortion clinic data to journalists. This federal contractor record shows exactly who else was buying. SafeGraph signed a $74,888 contract with the United States Air Force. The stated purpose on the contract was targeting. The internal documents explicitly discussed using the location data for analyzing human activity for landing zone selection. A commercial broker took civilian location data and sold it directly to the military for targeting analysis. That is documented. You see where this goes? The Near Intelligence case shows what happens when the pipeline breaks. Near Intelligence extracted geolocation data from Muslim prayer apps that had been downloaded over 98 million times. The markup confirmed that the company sold the location histories of those 98 million users to defense contractors like Alias. From there, the data flowed directly to the Department of Defense and federal intelligence agencies. But the pipeline broke. Near Intelligence filed for bankruptcy in December 2023. Former executives are confirmed to be under criminal investigation. When a data broker goes bankrupt, the personal information of millions of people is legally treated like office furniture. It is an asset to be liquidated to pay off creditors. Senator Ron Wyden had to publicly urge the Federal Trade Commission to intervene in the bankruptcy court to prevent the location data of those Muslim app users from being auctioned off to the highest bidder. The final fate of those 98 million user records remains unverified. The pipeline only flows one direction. Your data leaves your phone and it never comes back. I need to be exact about the market. The $315 billion data broker industry includes substantial legitimate business, marketing analytics, credit reporting, fraud prevention, financial risk assessment, Legitimate data brokering exists, and it powers a significant portion of the modern digital economy. Not every registered broker is tracking domestic violence shelters or selling military personnel profiles. Major trade associations, including the Association of National Advertisers and the Data and Marketing Association, have submitted formal comments arguing that new privacy regulations are overly broad. They state that indefinite deletion lists are unnecessary and overly burdensome for legitimate businesses trying to operate. Read what Brian Cox, the general manager of Kochava, said about the FTC lawsuit. He publicly called the federal enforcement a manipulative attempt to give the appearance of protecting privacy based on completely false pretenses. The industry's primary defense for selling location data is always anonymization. They argue that because they strip out your specific name and phone number before they sell your movement history, the data is harmless. Look, the anonymization defense collapses under mathematical testing. A major study published in Nature Communications tested how difficult it actually is to re-identify supposedly anonymous datasets. The researchers found that machine learning models could correctly identify 99.98% of Americans using just 15 demographic attributes. The FTC formally refers to this practice as data triangulation. If a broker sells an anonymous device identifier that sleeps at your exact home address every night and sits at your exact office desk every day, that data is not anonymous. It is you. Legitimate marketing analytics is a real business. But selling the home addresses of Alzheimer's patients is not marketing analytics. When a data broker crosses the line from legitimate analytics into predatory surveillance, the penalties are entirely disconnected from the reality of the damage. This chart tells the whole story. Datamasters sold 435,000 medical records. Fine, $45,000. National Public Data exposed 270 million people. Fine, $46,000. The largest fine California has ever issued to a data broker? $62,600 to S&P Global. Now compare that to the actual damage. The Joint Economic Committee of Congress calculated consumer losses from 4 recent data broker breaches. Here is the total. $20.8 billion. 4 breaches cost the public $20 billion. And the maximum penalty a state agency has managed to levy against a single broker is $62,000. The math proves that the system functions to monetize personal information while externalizing all the risk to the public. When the maximum fine is $62,000 and the industry revenue is $315 billion, the penalty is not a deterrent. It is a subscription fee for breaking the law. Weak enforcement is a structural failure of the legal system. But what matters in the markup uncovered last August shows deliberate engineered obstruction by the brokers themselves. California privacy law gives you the explicit right to ask data brokers to delete your personal information. To exercise that right, you have to be able to find the company's opt-out page on the internet. Review the source code from these broker websites. Investigators confirmed that 35 different data brokers embedded a specific line of code called a no-index tag directly into their required privacy pages. A no-index tag is an instruction that tells Google and other search engines to completely ignore the page. It artificially hides the opt-out form from all public search results. These companies built the deletion pages required by state law, and then they deployed engineering resources to make absolutely sure you could never find them. The investigation triggered Senator Maggie Hassan to open a formal congressional inquiry into the practice. This specific detail matters more than anything else in the pipeline. A large-scale data breach can be blamed on weak cybersecurity protocols. Selling sensitive location data can be blamed on loose internal compliance policies. But hiding the legal door from the public is not an accident. That requires a project manager writing a ticket. That requires a software developer pushing code to production. That is deliberate intent. California is attempting to force a market correction. The state passed the Delete Act. They launched a dedicated data broker strike force in November 2025. And in January 2026, they turned on a centralized system called the Drop platform. The system works like this. A consumer submits one single deletion request to the state. The Drop platform then automatically commands all 575 registered brokers to permanently delete that person's data. The system is accepting consumer requests right now. But the date the data broker industry is legally mandated to actually comply with those requests, is August 1st, 2026. Here's what the evidence says. Commercial brokers actively trade your medical history, your physical location, and your children's details for literal pennies. Their primary defense of anonymization fails basic mathematical testing. And when forced to offer a legal opt-out, dozens of companies actively conceal the mechanism. Here is what I think. The current data broker framework is working exactly as designed. It functions to monetize your private life while keeping true corporate accountability structurally impossible. The industry will attempt to stall. They will likely litigate the drop platform in federal court. They will argue that processing millions of simultaneous deletion requests will destroy legitimate data infrastructure. I would change my mind about this industry if I saw the math work the other way. If the financial penalty for selling the home addresses of Alzheimer's patients was ever larger than the profit they generated from selling them, it is not. It is not even close. The date to watch is August 1st, 2026. That is when the drop platform enforcement officially begins. If California can successfully force compliance, drop becomes a functional template for every state in the country. If the state fails, or if federal courts issue an injunction, the price list stays open, and your data stays cheap. That's what I found. I'm Sara. Keep asking questions.